Podemos decir la suerte, porque para que Jonathan pudiese estar aquí hoy, pues se tienen que convenir una serie de acciones, ¿no? Digamos, ¿no? Pues que él pueda estar aquí, pueda trasladarse de Oxford aquí, no es fácil, y convencerle de que él viniese, pues la verdad que ha sido una tarea nada fácil, ¿no? Por eso tengo que, en primer lugar, también felicitar a nuestros compañeros del Centro de Promoción de Empleo y Prácticas por conseguir este elenco de conferenciantes, de ponentes, pues que están al servicio hoy de todos nosotros. Por supuesto, agradecer a Jonathan siempre su disposición, sus ganas de venir aquí a Granada a debatir con nosotros el modelo que ellos tienen. Él es un claro ejemplo de cómo es una universidad anglosajona, de cómo funciona el sistema de alumni, de cómo funciona la orientación, más allá de cuando un estudiante finaliza sus estudios, de cómo los estudiantes, los egresados, se integran en las propias universidades. Eso que hablábamos el primer día de los lobbying, de cómo los egresados, orgullosos de su universidad, ayudan a que los estudiantes continúen sus estudios. Cómo ponen al servicio sus empresas para tutelar a nuevos estudiantes y cómo esto pues, es reforzado por la propia universidad, cómo ese modelo de universidad funciona y cómo son capaces de conseguir pues, financiación por empresas de antiguos estudiantes de su universidad. Creo que esto en el modelo español es una gran deficiencia. En el modelo de Granada se intenta implementar lo que se llama alumni, lo que se llama la asociación de antiguos alumnos o alumnos amigos de la universidad. Creo que esto en España, en el modelo español, aún no se ha llegado. La relación, la vinculación entre la universidad y la empresa no está establecida como está en el modelo anglosajón, donde los empresarios intervienen en procesos formativos claros de los estudiantes, donde continuamente son invitados, donde son tutores activos de la universidad, donde pertenecen a órganos de representación de la universidad, donde se sienten identificados con su universidad, y esto hace pues, que haya una retroalimentación hacia la universidad en manera de fondos, ¿no? Es decir, pues los presidentes de compañías importantes que han estudiado en esas universidades pues financian programas de empleo, programas de prácticas en su propia empresa. Creo que esto es uno de los próximos retos que tiene la Universidad Española, integrar a la empresa en la universidad, integrando a sus antiguos estudiantes. Desde luego, en la Universidad de Granada esto es un reto que tenemos, y yo cuando comencé como director académico de Empleo y Práctica hace 8 años, era algo de lo que ya se hablaba, ¿no? Se hablaba de que antiguos egresados de la Universidad de Granada, por ejemplo, puedo decir que el director de investigación de Coca-Cola en Estados Unidos es un egresado de la Universidad de Granada. Julio Boza fue director de Puleva aquí en Granada, posteriormente pasó a Bruselas, a Coca-Cola Bruselas, y actualmente está en Atlanta como director de investigación en Coca-Cola. Y fruto de eso, de esa relación quizás conmigo también personal, ¿no? Pues hemos hecho algún proyecto de investigación de forma conjunta. Pero estoy seguro que él hacia su universidad, si estuviese más reconocido su labor, si estuviese más reconocida la función del tutor en la empresa de ese modelo anglosajón que nos van a presentar hoy, pues quizás podríamos sacar mucho más rendimiento y de los fondos que tienen esas grandes compañías podrían revertir en una mejora de las prácticas y del empleo hacia la universidad. Jonathan, como digo, es un claro modelo, es la Universidad de Oxford. ¿Qué más se puede decir? La Universidad de Oxford, número 1 en muchos factores, muchos índices de calidad de las universidades mundiales. Él, además, tiene una larga experiencia, porque no solo como en su currículum me ha prestado, pues también ha estado en universidades americanas y ha participado también en empresas. Por lo tanto, creo que somos afortunados en no tener que desplazarnos hoy a Oxford para conocer su modelo. Y yo tuve la suerte, con algún compañero, como veo aquí a Tony, que estuvimos en Oxford hace tiempo con Tracy, ¿no? Pues que son modelos que están muy diferenciados a los españoles y que creo que son un déficit a los que tenemos que fijarnos y coger esas ventajas que nos pueden ayudar a crear mejores servicios de empleo y práctica. Muchas gracias, Jonathan Black. Muchas gracias por estar aquí en Granada y espero que sea una presentación que la recordemos en el tiempo y sea pues un punto en donde podemos fijar nuestros próximos objetivos profesionales. Gracias.
Great. Thank you very much. Thank you for the kind introduction. It's an absolute pleasure to be in Granada, no hardship at all. If you saw the weather in Oxford when I left, this is really quite a lovely change, and all my staff are extremely jealous, particularly of the view. We had the pleasure of seeing the careers service here in Granada this morning, and the view of the Royal Palace. Even though we have good views in Oxford, there's nothing quite like that. So it's a pleasure to be here and to talk about how we've approached careers and the careers service. I once was at a conference and I met a recruiter from the Royal Navy. He asked me what I did, and he said, but surely that must be the easiest job in the world. After all, why do Oxford students need any help at all? They're at the number 1, number 2, 3 university in the world, but they still need help. And I think we're trying to give them the best careers service to match the best academic model. So a little background, a little history. Slightly older than Granada University, founded in about 1200 AD by academics who fled Paris during the riots in Paris. They fled to Oxford, and a bit later they fled to some other university in the east of England that we don't really talk about. And there's the size of it, about 20,000 students altogether, 11,700 undergraduates, 8,000 postgraduates, and about 500 visiting students. No one really knows how many alumni, and we'll talk about that in a minute, but about 180,000, we think, most of whom are in the UK, but the rest are scattered throughout all 4 corners of the world. Many international students, so about 15% of undergraduates are international, that is from outside the UK, but about 60% of postgraduate students are from outside the UK. We teach all subjects from humanities, social sciences, maths, physics, through to medicine. So it's a full-service university with a very large program in research. So academics are expected to research as well as teach. The university is not representative of typical British universities. We have, like Cambridge, a collegiate structure. So students live in a college, they are admitted to the university by their college, but they are taught in the university by the department or the faculty, and they're granted the degree by the university. Some examples: classic Balliol College, 1254 AD on the right, the Nuffield Department of Clinical Medicine on the left. So this leads, the colleges are separate charitable entities. I'm a member of a college. We have to do the best for the college, and it leads to, shall we say, creative tension between the university and the colleges, but the students have a great time. What it means for students is they live in a college with people studying many different subjects. So they get this wonderful wide exposure. You might be studying medicine and you'll have dinner with sociologists, mathematicians, physicists, what have you. However, as the careers service, we go beyond all of that and go straight to students and ignore, in a way, the college and the faculty breakdown. Well, this is where I think we sit, which is at the middle, of course, at the centre, most important. But particularly, students are our main source of clients, and recruiters on the right. And we really bring these two together and then get out of the way. We learnt an interesting contrast this morning, I think, here in Granada, where, and maybe it's a Spanish model, where jobs are advertised by recruiters and the university will field the CVs and will pass applications from students onto the recruiter. That is not the UK model. Our model is we don't mind how students get a job, we just bring the two together and then get out of the way. But we have some other very important client groups. In the top we have colleges, so to reach students, it's quite good to go to their college. Faculties, to go and talk to them in anthropology or wherever. And the central university, the administrators themselves, explaining to them why careers is important. And then, I suppose as our foundation, we have the alumni. When I arrived, we changed the model, and we support alumni for life. There was a fear that this would open the floodgates, that thousands of alumni who were unhappy with their jobs would reach us and want career counselling. I can assure you that has not happened. We have one careers advisor who looks after alumni. He does about 800 Skype calls a year, supporting alumni. And in return, alumni come and help us. They sit on panels, they offer internships. There's no money changing hands. Many parts of the university, the colleges, use alumni to raise money. And some alumni like that, and many don't. But when we talk to them, we're after their advice and their help with no money. And that is a wholly different and very supportive relationship, which one day might lead to money, but that's not our problem. I thought we'd step back and talk about the philosophy of what we consider a best practice careers service. And we'll take a little time on these. So the first point is that we are impartial. We are not we cannot support one industry over another, one company over another. We have to be broad brush. We have, for example, academics who would say, I don't teach these students philosophy so that they just go off and work in an investment bank. That's not a good outcome. And we have to say, that's not your decision. We are impartial. If they go into investment banking, or they go into teaching, or they join the army, we are indifferent as long as the student's doing what they want to do. So we have to be impartial. It makes it very easy, actually, then, at that point. There's one group of companies we do not support, which are tobacco. The university has a big research program into the cancers of tobacco, but that's the only one we don't support. But there are pressures all the time. So I suppose the latest pressure from students is about oil and gas companies. We don't like oil companies. We don't like carbon-producing companies, but we all like the lights on, and we like the buses, and so they're legal. Second point, we rely on having very rich knowledge and deep experience. And so the careers advisors who work in the department have all done other jobs elsewhere in teaching or in medicine or what have you. They've done the real job themselves. I believe, and I've always believed, we hire people who've got experience and then we can train them to be careers advisors and to work with the university. You can't do it the other way around. I don't believe you can take people who've just done careers advice forever and then say, I'd like you to talk about banking, if they've never been in a bank. We're very open and transparent. I'm here today, I'll tell you anything you like. Our website is almost completely open. If you want access to our information, if you have students who want to work in Britain or English-speaking countries, feel free to download any of the information. We had a visitor from Perugia in Italy, and she said, but your website's open, I could steal all this information. And I said, yeah, that's what the web is. The web is about sharing information. So please be my guest. But that's not enough. And I'm going to talk in a minute about some of the added value programs that have given extra skills to students, because the academic program and student societies and sport and what have you is not enough. We are very evidence-led. I will show you some statistics in a minute, but every year will collect evidence about how much usage students make of us, what they like, what they don't like, so that we can adjust our model and adjust our program every year. And we do the same with employers. What do they like? What are we not doing? What would they prefer us to do? As I said, we provide support for life, and we're very engaged with the university, with the national debate, and of course with the international debate. We're here to talk about the same issues and what we've done. Okay, let's give you some specific examples. So first, we have to collect, because the government makes us collect it, destination data. So every university in the UK asks every leaver, undergraduate and postgraduate, what are you doing 6 months after leaving? So roughly for us, in January, we'd say, what are you doing on this day? And we collect up these data and we submit it to the Statistics Agency, and it's all free to download if you wish, for employers to look at. And so here, this is what these data are based on. So this pie chart shows you an average of 5 years of where undergraduates from Oxford go. This is probably representative of Oxford and Cambridge, but if it were the general UK university, you would have many fewer going into further study. So we have about half, that's the blue and the red sector, going into work. The size of that pie is about 3,200 students a year from Oxford, quite a small university compared with Granada. We then have a third who go to further study, so very academic. They'll go off to do a PhD, a master's, they might be medical students. About 6% are unemployed and looking for work 6 months after leaving, and about 6% are unemployed but not looking for work. They're not available for work. They're sitting on the beach, taking a gap year, who knows, having a nice time. If we break that down, so the green sector is this pie chart on the left. PGR, postgraduate by research, that's a PhD. PGT is a postgraduate taught course, a one-year master's. Professional qualification, the green sector. Postgraduate diploma, maybe a teaching qualification, and so on. So many of them are going off to further study. I think that just reflects that Oxford's a very academic university. And this is the chart we try to show prospective students for the university. So where do the ones who go into work go? And the answer is they go everywhere. Oxford does not really have vocational degrees. We don't, I suppose medicine is vocational, and maybe economics and management, but the rest of them, philosophy, sociology, theology, politics, economics, they don't lead directly to a job. Classics, Latin, Greek, modern languages, but they seem to lead to lots of jobs. And so our message, and you can see on the right, the blue sector is what we would call the city, accountancy, law, finance, banking, management consultancy, everything to do with the city or Wall Street or whatever you'd like to call it. The second and equal sector is teaching in high school. So it's kind of the single biggest sector, is they want to go off and teach. And then you've got everything else. We've got healthcare, culture, sport, museums, art galleries, government, those sort of things. So the lesson for all applicants to Oxford, including from Spain, is come and study what you love, and then let the career take its own path. Because we can look at people who've read music and are now airline pilots, they're in the BBC, they're bankers, they're lawyers, what have you. It can go anywhere. So they're going to a lot of different places. How does this happen? So how do we think about our students? I suppose one could think about them as first year, second year, third year, men and women, scientists, artists, college, nationality. But we find this is the best way. We did a survey several years ago about where they were in their thinking about their career. And they pretty much fall into three sectors, almost regardless of whether they're a first-year undergraduate or a third-year PhD. So about a third of them, in a room like this, I would say, so who knows what they want to do? And a third would put up their hand and say, I have no idea where to start. I'm reading maths. What am I going to do with maths? I have heard that exact phrase, to which the answer is almost anything. Every employer we meet would love to meet you. So, don't know where to start is a third of them. About a quarter, the red sector, that's not very clear. It says, I want to acquire more skills. So I know what I want to do, but I know I don't have the skills I need. I need more. And then the third group, probably the biggest, 40%, say, look, I know what I want to do. I just want to look for jobs. I want to apply. And as many of you will know, they'll get to that stage, they'll look at the jobs, they may even apply, they may not like them, they may not get the job, and they'll start again. So you know what? I didn't want to do that after all. Start again. Now I really don't know where to start. And so the point of thinking about this in those three ways is that we can then divide the careers service to think about and provide sessions that look after those three different types of student. So what specifically do we do? I suppose there are some core services, central services. On the left, that's a picture of a careers fair. They'll be familiar to you. We run 12 careers fairs through the year. That's probably the most of any university. We keep thinking of new ones. 2 weeks ago, we ran our first teaching fair. We'd never run a teaching fair before, but secondary school education and teaching in Britain is changing so fast, and there are so many different ways into teaching and so many different suppliers from even 5 years ago that we thought a teaching fair would be good, and lo and behold, 30 companies turned up. Generally, the fairs are themed: banking, finance, media, what have you. They're run centrally, so anyone can come. It's important to email students on the day of the fair. You've probably found this. If you tell them a week before, they forget about it. If you tell them on the day, you'll get at least, you'll get at least 200 more will turn up. It used to be, when I started, it used to be a week in advance, and now it's a day. And probably it's going to be about 6 hours. We're thinking, what am I doing this afternoon? Sun's shining, I'll go and play sport. It's cloudy, okay, I'll go to a careers fair. It's raining, I won't go out. So anyway, so weather's very dependent. We get about 7,000, 8,000 visitors, and we get about 400, 500 employers. We can charge a lot of money for those fairs. They are limited in space, mainly because Oxford doesn't have large buildings, believe it or not. So the biggest fair, if we can get some buildings on a Saturday, we can get 90 attendees. If we have to do it in the middle of the week, we use the town hall, and we can only get 55. But we can typically charge, well, let's think, 600 to 1,300 euros for a stand at a fair. There are discounts for people who are members of our recruiters group, but we can charge a lot because the fairs sell out and they want to meet Oxford students. And this is the best way to do it. We'll talk about more of that in a minute. In the middle, we have classic one-to-one advice sessions. So we run about 5,500 of those a year. They're 20 minutes long. They run in parallel every day, Monday to Friday, 10 o'clock in the morning to 4:30. Students book, no more than one a week, but no limit. And they meet a careers advisor and they can talk about anything. It's their meeting. They can say, would you review my CV? I've had an offer, what do you think? I don't know where to start. My parents expect me to do this, what do you think? I'm sure you've been in some of those meetings. I do these. I particularly like the ones who say, I have no idea where to start. They're much more fun than the ones who say, I want to be a lawyer, tell me exactly what I've got to do. To which we say, well, have you read all our briefings and all the other publications? And I did have a student once say, no, I thought you could tell me. I said, no, go and read it. And then we can ask. And on the right, we have the only bit of the website that you cannot see is the vacancy system, where employers can post vacancies or internships or any opportunity. It's free, unlimited. The system will collect up CVs and application forms, but generally in Europe, employers ask the students to write directly to the employer. And that's probably a difference from what we were hearing this morning. We encourage the employers that you post it here. It's seen by students, and alumni have access to that system if they want it as well. It's worth saying, actually, to your alumni point, that increasingly employers are saying, could we reach out to 28, 30-year-olds? So students who've had one job, two jobs, and now want to settle down. We don't want people who'll only stay 3 years. We want them to stay 10 or 15. So if we get them at 28 or 30, they'll be a bit more experienced. So we are now beginning to advertise for alumni, and we also think, we haven't done it yet, but we think we'll start charging companies to post those advertising. Okay, so I talked about how are we doing. So every year we measure several things. It's a typical survey. I send it to about 4,000 students at random. We get about 800 of them reply. We quickly analyze the data. First question, how are we doing in terms of the services we provide? Do we meet or exceed, or are we below your expectations? And we seem to have plateaued at about 90% meeting or exceeding. I think that's probably okay. I suspect that the 10% are being told things they don't like hearing, and so they don't like us. They come, they ask for advice, we tell them something that they don't really want to know, and then maybe they're dissatisfied. But anyway, 90% is not bad. We break it down by all the things we offer, so I won't go through each of these. The weekly email, 93% are happy with that. Talks or workshops, 92%. The careers fairs, 88% are happy, and so on. So it's all pretty good, but we know where we have to work. So many years ago, events in your college scored very, very low. So we quickly changed. We assigned careers advisors to look after particular colleges and departments, to go out into Oxford and give talks in colleges. How many of you are working? How many of you are engaging with the careers service? So this is just undergraduates, and you can see finalists, so people in their final year coming up for exams this month, next month. About 90% of finalists are engaging with us. And if you think that only about a half of them are going to go into paid work and a third are going into research, we're seeing quite a lot of students who are going into research and are probably saying, is this the right thing to do? Should I go into academia, or should I go and get a job? Those kind of discussions. So we have to be able to talk about further study as well. Penultimates, the people in their penultimate year. And again, I think I was talking to somebody earlier. The first years, you can see we're engaging with around 60% of the first year students. Now, we run this survey in about January, so first years have been in Oxford for about one term only. And yet, I mean, 60% are engaging with careers. That means they're coming to a fair, they're coming to see a careers advisor, they're going to an employer presentation, they're getting their CV checked. If we had run this survey 10 years ago, that number would have been 5%, 3%, nothing. Most people said, oh, I worried about careers when I got to my final year. Is this a sign of the times that 60% are engaging with us so early? And it's certainly not like university when I was there, and I'm maybe older than most people in the room, but we certainly didn't go anywhere near careers for a couple of years, but now they really are. They're worried. In Britain, of course, we've had a big rise in fees. So the fees for going to Oxford, the university fees are 1,400 euros a year. No, sorry, 14,000 euros a year. So that focuses the mind. Their parents are worried. The newspapers tell them to be worried, and so on and so on. So there's an awful lot of anxiety building up. How do we address it? How do we organise ourselves as a careers service? Well, we've divided the team into 4 groups, and I'll talk about each one. The first group is at the top, careers guidance. Okay, so the principal job for the careers advisors, of whom there are about 12 in Oxford, is one-to-one counselling, group sessions in colleges and departments. It's got a very important role, one-to-one counselling. It's effective. It can very quickly, in 15 minutes, you can set somebody on the right path. You can reduce anxiety. You can get them to do something, take action, and come back. And I think careers services play a unique role of being impartial. We're not their employer, we're not their parents, although some of us are parents, but we're not their parents. We're not their tutor, we're not their friends, and we're not the university, but we are impartial and we're on their side. So when they say, all my friends want to go into banking, and my parents want me to, but I want to be an actor, we say, great, let's talk about that. We want what you want, not what your parents want. I've had students say, oh, what am I going to do with English? And I said, oh, hang on a minute, it's the last day of term. You're going home tomorrow, aren't you? Yes. Your mum says, yes. My mum says, what am I going to do with English? So let's address that anxiety for your mother, and then we'll help you. So I think that's a unique role that careers services can play, and I don't think we should overlook it. It's a refuge, it's a place, and it's also, it has no stigma attached to going to see a careers advisor. It's a good thing, it's a professional thing to do. It's not going to the counselling service where you might be suffering a mental breakdown, or you might be depressed. So we will signpost people, we'll give them an action plan, or we'll work out an action plan with them, and it increases self-confidence. We would work on this classic careers model, starting at the top. What's important to you? What are your strengths? What are you good at? What could you do? Let's have a look at what would fit those. And finally, let's start taking some action. So when people say, I don't know where to start, we'd start at the top. What's important? Do you like helping people? Do you like teaching? Do you like working on your own? Teamwork, etc., etc. We run a range of those one-to-one interactions. If it's just your CV, 10-minute review. We'll do it. But I think, as we all know, looking at someone's CV can spark a lot of questions, which suddenly opens up a discussion for a 20-minute debate about why are you interested in going into this industry when your CV has nothing on it that will support it. It seems to me you're much more suited to something over here. Oh yes, I do really want to do that after all. So 20-minute pre-booked, and then probably about 10% are 45 minutes. People with a disability, hidden or visible, alumni, Alumni have much more history to unwrap usually, if they're 30 or 40 or 50. Postgraduates, facing a lot of challenges. Do I stay in academia? Do I suddenly go to the commercial world? Research staff, so postdoctoral students, so we help them as well. And as I said, our careers advisors have experience from a lot of sectors, from finance, management consulting, through to the armed forces, research, charities, and so on. So people can speak in general about anything, but if you really want to know about management consulting, you'd come and see me, because I was one for 6 years, or you'd see Julia, or some of my staff who've also done it. We've worked in lots of places, the US, in the Middle East, Australia, Europe, really helpful. And then we have people who specialize in particular areas, people who work with students with Asperger's syndrome or other disabilities, postgraduates and so on, people who can understand all those other challenges. So that's the careers advice team. The next team to talk about are the employer relations. So very important role. They provide about 40% of our budget. So the university funds us 60%, and we've gone out and raised money from recruiters to give us 40%, which means we can do much more. And we have a team who look after them. I've talked about the careers fairs. These are some of the themes we follow with the careers fairs. We have an International Careers Day, which actually is the biggest, it's the most popular fair. 1,200, 1,500 students come to that. Everything about working outside the UK. Finance, consulting, advertising, law, teaching, and so on. Internships. And then 2 or 3 that we run in a department. So we will go to the maths department and run a fair there for mathematicians or for computer scientists. And that really helps. So if you have a company like Shell, they come to the finance fair because they have a big trading section. They'll also come to science and engineering fair because they have a lot of engineering that works in oil and so on. However, as another way to make more money and to engage our recruiters more closely, we've created a recruiters group to make them feel special. So it's a membership organization. I commend it to you. We have about 140 members. There are 2 levels. If you're an associate member, you pay about €1,000 a year. If you're a partner, you pay about €5,000 a year. You will be guaranteed a space at the fairs you want to come to. These fairs sell out very quickly, and so you want to guarantee to be there, you've got to join the recruiters group. You'll get discounts off the fees. We will give you access directly to students, and that's one of the big things they want. I don't want to keep coming through you. I don't want to advertise and hope for the best. I want you to send this email, please, on behalf of, let's say, Shell, to all the finance students in the 3rd year who speak Arabic. I want all 27 of them to get this email. Very targeted, personalized messages, incredibly effective, and we charge for it. And why not? And they get first refusal on specific promotions. So we run a program to support women, a development program for women. We need sponsors. We'll ask the recruiters group first. It enables recruiters to get in front of students. Why is this important? Because we had about 9,000 vacancies this year, and there's about 3,000 students leaving to go into work. So employers are competing for our students, and so we say, you need to find ways to raise your reputation. Or you're just unknown, you're new, you're a new business who no students ever heard of. So you need to raise your reputation. This is a great way to do it. Okay, 3rd group, marketing. A very small team, marketing and resources, but we have to find ways to reach our students. We all know, I said, they have I think we're all familiar with emailing students 5 times, sending them materials, and they still say, I never knew this was going on. Why didn't you tell me? So, the top left is our website. Oh no, it's not, it's our weekly. They get a weekly email of what's coming up next week. They have to opt out of getting this email. So on our system, we have every single student, we just take that off the university system, and they all get this email. I don't care whether they want it or not, they're going to get it. And they can opt out of it if they really don't want it. Most of them say that's fine. I think a couple of thousand have opted out. And we'll flag, we'll talk about upcoming projects in that. The bottom left is the website. Again, open access, we'll point to things there. We've tried all sorts of social media. We'll talk about that in a minute. Hard copy is still very, very effective. There's nothing like a postcard posted straight to them or in their pigeonhole in their college. Something they pick up and take away. Or the guide, we produce a guide annually that's about 150 pages long. They still like hard copy. These so-called digital natives, who apparently are more au fait with the internet than all of us, still like to get pieces of paper and to read that. Okay, so what do they find effective? We asked them in the survey, how did you find out about all these things? Number one, 80% say it's the newsletter. So again, I would recommend the weekly newsletter to you as a great way to reach students. Almost equally important, emails from their department or their college. They'll listen to their academics. They'll listen to their tutors. And if the tutor says, why don't you think about this fair or think about this internship, they'll listen. Interestingly, all the way down the bottom is social media. Less than 10% find out about us through Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn. They just don't use it for us. They use Facebook and the equivalent for their social life, but they expect us to work with them professionally with email and with, principally with email, actually. Okay, what do we provide them? All these information sheets you can download. Anyone can download. Creative CVs, psychometric tests, you name it, all of those. So we help them with all that sort of stuff. CVs, applications, all the day-to-day, how you go about getting a job. And that's what they'll come for. The fourth and final group are these, it's the learning and development programs that we've created over the last few years. And I'll just talk about some of these. And why did we do it? Because career services generally in the UK do not do any more than I've just talked about. So when we survey our employers, our recruiters, and this is a survey from about 800 employers, we asked them, what do you think of Oxford students? How many of you think they're better or much better than the average UK student? And we mean that on the scale of 8, what the Confederation of British Industry called 8 employability measures. And you'll have your own employability measures, but we took these 8. So they think, employers think, the green ones, Oxford students, fantastic. Yeah, initiative, self-management, communication, planning, superb. They're okay, they're a bit average on innovation and creativity, and they're actually quite weak on business awareness and on teamwork. Now, the Oxford style of teaching, of tutorial academic teaching, does not encourage teamwork, but encourages all sorts of other things, initiative and self-management and so on. So we've had to find a way to fill in the problems at the bottom. We need to give them ways to develop teamwork. I mean, you probably don't have a problem with teamwork, but you'll have a problem with something else. So we find it's whatever's appropriate for your environment. So this is a set of learning and development programs that we've created. I'm going to talk about one or two of them. The Student Consultancy is a great, great program. It was brought to us by 2 students. One was German, who said it's very common in German universities. But every term, we gather, through assessment, about 150 students, undergraduates, postgraduates, every subject. We put them in teams of 4. We give them some consultancy training, generate hypothesis, collect data, interview companies, solve their business problem. We also generate business problems from the community. We don't make anything up. So our clients from around Oxford give us problems, and the students work as a team with those clients. So they go out and they work with the City Council on social housing, or the Bodleian Library on how do you barcode books, or something. They work on projects just for 8 weeks, as well as all their other work. And they develop a proposal, and they give a report at the end. It absolutely gives them business awareness, and it gives them teamwork. And that's a great program, something on their CV, something to talk about. Springboard for masters and undergraduates is a holistic development program for women. We know that women don't do as well as men. If we had another hour, I could give you that presentation about that. But that's a program we've developed and put in place for women. And our internship program, again, we created this. It's a bit different from the internships here. Internships are not a part of the curriculum in Oxford, but they are a lovely extra to have. So we started our own program, particularly with alumni. So we went out to alumni and said, wouldn't you like to have an Oxford student come and work with your organisation for a few weeks over the summer on a real project? And we've gone in the last 5 or 6 years from 0 to having over 500 placements all around the world. About 70% actually are outside the UK. They're real projects. They all must be funded. If it's in the UK, there's national minimum wage of about €10 an hour. If it's outside the UK, they have to be funded in some way. Lots of them are with charities, and they're fantastic experiences that students compete very hard for. We do not select the student. All we do is act as a clearinghouse. We make sure the project is good, we get feedback, we know who they are, the students apply, we pass the applications straight to the employer, and they select. And often they say, you know, these applications are so good, I'm going to take 2 or 3, not 1. You may recognise some names there, but they are all around the world. And this is quite out of date, but there are many more of those. So we can engage alumni with careers in many ways. It's definitely a two-way relationship. It supports other work that the university does with alumni, and it really benefits current students. We encourage students to contact alumni to be mentors or to get advice about careers. And we, of course, support alumni. I did a survey of alumni in 2011, and one of the questions was, would you value help from Oxford? And as you can see in the pie chart, 80%, so 4 out of 5 said, I would value help from Oxford about my career. Again, I think it's because we're impartial, it's free, and they feel, you know, some sort of connection with the alma mater. So, in conclusion, I think the impartiality is extremely important. Being responsive, changing the organisation to reflect the change in society or the change in employers, rich experience, these relevant development programs. Just this week, we're launching Insight into Business. So many students realise they don't know enough about business. So, in fact, it's tonight, and then 2 weeks' time and 4 weeks' time, a 2-hour session for students, and it's about just general business terms. How do you read an account? How do you organise? What does an organisation look like? What's important in a business? And that's been oversubscribed by about 60 students are coming to that, and that's just a pilot. Very evidence-led, work with alumni and engage with the university. I think, I just reminded myself, there are 2 key words in Oxford to make things happen. It's a very old-fashioned, very bureaucratic organization, but no one will tell you what to do. So you ask for forgiveness, not permission. And the two key words to remember are pilot and precedent. And so if I tell academics, this is just a pilot program, we're doing it with 3 colleges or undergraduates only, everyone says, oh, that's fine, a pilot, no problem. And then you go back a year later and say, it worked really well, and now we're going to expand it. And we've got precedent from last year, everyone says, fine. So I would encourage you to think, if you need to, let's just try things out. We have a reasonable tolerance for failure, and we try things. We don't overplan it. We'll give it a go, see what happens, reflect, adjust it, maybe change the timing, change the advertising, change the date, and have another go, ask students what they think. Because until you engage, you don't really know if it's going to work. That's all I've got to say. Maybe you have questions. These are my contact details. Always dangerous to put that up, of course, but Granada and Spain are lovely places to come to. So I'm happy to take any questions, and thank you for listening. Okay.
Bien, vamos a empezar con una pregunta. Mientras amigo por el micrófono, podéis hacer las preguntas que le podemos hacer.
Good afternoon. Thank you very much for your nice presentation. Supongo que hablo en español y le traducen la pregunta. ¿Sí?
That's correct. Yep.
Sí, quería saber cuál es la relación que tiene su universidad con instituciones públicas e instituciones privadas. Veo que sí que he visto mucha relación con empresas, está muy bien, con employers de todo tipo, pero quería saber con los servicios públicos de empleo, con instituciones públicas como tal, si podría decirnos en qué tipo de relación trabajan. EURES, no sé si conocen o trabajan con redes europeas o proyectos europeos. Ese tipo de relación con instituciones. Gracias.
Let's start with what I know. So we have relationships with British institutions like the National Health Service or government organisations, the civil service, in terms that they are treated like any other recruiter. With European institutions, that tends to be more on the academic side, on Erasmus schemes and so on. So we would treat, yes, and I don't think anything particularly, anything particularly special. So let's just mop up the flood I've created. Thank you. So no, I'm not quite, I don't think we do in the way that you may have. Perhaps I should drink this. Hold on.
Thank you. Yeah, good afternoon. I would like to know if the economic crisis, together with raising the fees in England, put pressure on career services all over England in order to restructure their services, because, as we know, people now look at employability a lot, the students, when they have to decide where to study or not. And if that forces you, it doesn't matter if Oxford or other universities force you to put more pressure on rankings and, give better services to the students. Because here in Spain, still we are not aware of that. We are too, lazy in that way, I think. And I think we need some pressure, as you had. Thank you.
It's a very good question. Well, this is where Oxford and Cambridge are different. I think there's an element, but yeah, if I speak in general about UK universities, there is definitely employability and careers has come very fast up the priority list. So if you look at the prospectus for Imperial College, careers and employment outcome is on page 1 of the prospectus. If you look at Durham University, it's on page 4. If you look at Oxford Brookes or at Reading, any university, it's very, very high. Probably the second question that most students ask. Oxford and Cambridge, it's not that high. I won't tell you where we are in the prospectus, but it's not page 2. Well, I think that's wrong, but in general, yes, it's definitely come higher up. There are definitely people saying, I'm going to pay over 3 years £27,000, or what is that, 35,000 euros for a degree. I get a student loan, but I'm going to pay it back, plus living, so call it 50,000, 60,000 euros I'm going to for a 3-year degree. Now, in the sort of capitalist model, that should mean that students say, should I go and do this degree or should I just get a job? But somehow it hasn't happened. That bit hasn't worked in that people are still going to do non-vocational degrees at middle-ranking universities and with no particular employment outcome. And you'd have thought, this is the wrong thing to do, but maybe that's to come. Remember, the fee system in Britain, which was changed, has an artificial ceiling, so we can't charge what we like. I think if there was no ceiling, Oxford would charge £20,000 a year. I mean, don't quote me on that, but they could charge a lot more, and it could be justified. But there is a ceiling, and so it's a very artificial system. To answer your question, yes, careers is definitely higher up the list. It's definitely a question for school children, and more importantly, their parents, to say, what is little Mary going to do with maths? And I've had that question from parents at Oxford Open Days. She's going to read maths. What on earth, what job could you do with maths apart from being a teacher? To which you say, banking, consulting, civil service, anything, maths, anything. So, we can show the statistics, you can do anything. So I think actually, one of the lessons, I think universities have a very good story to tell, that you will get a better job, you will have more choice if you've done a degree. It's a ticket to many employers, which you just can't get in the room if you don't have a degree. It can really limit you. It may not limit you now, but it might limit you in 5 years' time when you go for promotion. It'll just be, have you got a degree? Oh, right, hang on, we can't do it. So, yeah, it's definitely higher up the list.
Hi. Thank you for your presentation. I have a question for you. Do you have any kind of contact or regular relationship with the academics from the different departments and colleges in terms of designing, implementing, and evaluating whether or not the instruction the students are receiving is taking them to gain the right competencies that later on the entrepreneurs are going to demand? Thank you.
Very short answer, no. But again, I think that's unusual to the university I'm in. Academics teach the course. They're there to get them their academic degree. We are there to do the other bit, to help them get. In terms of analysis of our work, we have enough. Sorry, there's a follow-up.
So, do you mean that that concern, that issue is on your agenda in the following years?
Yes.
Okay.
I think I've caricatured. I've made it very black and white. I think that's changing, and I think we are increasingly, as many British universities, becoming more in the curriculum. If you were at many other universities, there is this phrase of being embedded in the curriculum, where you would say, right, Wednesday afternoons, you're doing a modern languages, you're doing French and German, university degree. On Wednesdays each month, we're going to talk about what are you going to do with your languages. And we'll talk about working for the EU, working in France, working for Renault, who knows. But that would be absolutely in the timetable at many universities, not at Oxford yet. But maybe. We are, in some departments we are, and we'll get to go and see them once a year and just say, actually, you might want to think about some things here. Okay. I've made it very wet up here. Good. Well, I shall be here, and I'll be here this evening, so if you want to... Oh, one more question. Excellent. But I will be here anyway this evening.
Hola.
Hello.
Sí. Buenas tardes, gracias por la intervención. Yo vengo de la Universidad de Navarra y sí que es una universidad que tiene una red alumni, quizá por supuesto no tan grande como la vuestra, pero sí que me consta que dentro de las universidades españolas pues es una de las más grandes. Y quería preguntarle cómo hacen ustedes el contacto con esos antiguos alumnos, cómo les invitan para que formen parte de los proyectos de la universidad y en concreto pues de lo que tiene que ver con las salidas profesionales. ¿Qué consejos nos podría dar?
Right. So we make clear to the current students that they have support for life. They would re-register on our system. So that keeps the current ones. But of course, most alumni left years ago. The colleges, the departments, the university records have some view of it. And we get their permission to be able to write to alumni directly to say, would you like careers information? If you do, register here. If not, thanks, but we're always here when you want us. And then we can write directly. So we send about a monthly email to alumni who've registered, which is only about 7,000, I think, who are interested in careers. And we just gradually keep our own database. So it's not by all means 180,000. There is an alumni department in the university, and we're on good terms with them. We work with them. We can provide great things for them to talk about to their alumni or to the alumni. That's more than just asking for money or asking for jobs. So in a way, I think it's a great way to work. I think it's a hidden, real hidden benefit, and it's a great way to engage alumni who will one day give money, but maybe not yet. Okay.
Thank you very much.
Okay, you're welcome.
We learn a lot from you.